New Baldur's Gate 3 combat, classes, level cap details, and much more are revealed in this week's highly detailed interview. Hi everyone, I'm Wisa of Content Critters, here to condense the latest RPG news so you don't have to. Baldur's Gate 3's lead system designer Nick Pechenin is interviewed by Rock Paper Shotgun's Matthew Castle, where they discuss a ton of new information on the game's combat, classes, level cap, long and short rests, to name a few. In today's video, we will talk about these topics in detail together with the skill checks, inspiration points, reactions, elemental surfaces, and deaths in Baldur's Gate 3. It's going to be a pretty long episode, so please bear with me. When Larian Studios initially implemented group initiative, they realized that it was difficult to balance when all party members went in first to face enemies. Players also had the tendency to use the same strategy over and over again, so it takes away the excitement of each tactical puzzle. But with the new and dynamic individual initiative system, players are now confronted with unique and difficult tactical puzzles, which pushes them to interact with their party and to depend on each other. So for example, you have a companion who's a healer and another one who prioritizes damage. This is where groupings become essential when two characters or the entire party are able to work together simultaneously to set up a combination of attacks. It also introduces randomness and variety in the gameplay while pushing you to think on your feet. Because of this, players can manufacture situations for their benefit by targeting the enemies that have to be eliminated first. When it comes to co-op, communication and coordination become more essential due to real-time gameplay where actions can be controlled simultaneously. You wouldn't want to accidentally cast a fire spell on your friend.
Use this!
Next is one of the more controversial pieces of gameplay, which is the combat speed associated with turn-based strategy versus real-time with pause. I'm happy to say that the combat is indeed much faster than in Divinity Original Sin 2, and this is attributed to advancements in Larian's animation technology. Nick explains that adding little rushes at the end when characters engage in combat, as well as when they actually hit the enemies, reduces seconds. What also contributes to this is how the AI begins to pass the turn even when the corresponding animation hasn't even completely ended yet. When you multiply these little changes, it adds up, resulting in faster turn-based combat. Definitely a job well done to Larian for immediately making improvements to speed up combat animation. Hopefully they will also make adjustments to the camera transitions, which can be a little bit jarring when moving from one character to the next, especially with verticality involved. Now in the recent demo, there were parts when abilities lasted for several turns, mimicking a pause mode. Nick explains that the party can pre-buff themselves before the start of any encounter, but it's also important to note that these have durations. So this is where the turn-based system also becomes beneficial because these buffs will not run out before using them, and decisions don't have to be rushed. Additionally, in the event that the party follows one of their members already engaged in turn-based mode, they too will be involved in the combat. Each participant exerts what is called a combat aura that automatically draws other entities to join in. One example given by Nick is having a burning crate enter this mode so you will not have to see it tick away. The good part about it is you also have the option to unchain party members so they can do something else while the remaining ones finish off the enemies. In Baldur's Gate 3, some classes will be getting more love while some races will have weaknesses that can kill them within 15 seconds of the game's beginning. Matthew initially expresses how undercooked the Ranger is in terms of favored enemy or natural explorer in the previous Baldur's Gate games. Nick shares that they have been working closely with Wizards of the Coast, who also has plans on improving Rangers, which Larian is testing right now. In the game, the choice of favored enemy or natural explorer will not be fixed. These will be largely influenced by the playstyle choice rather than the available content. So things like preferring a sneakier approach or preferring to shoot a lot are taken into consideration. With rogues, on the other hand, it's a different case. Item throwing will be cheaper and faster, while stealth based on the light and dark system will play a bigger role since rogues are naturally good at this. Creating puzzles with stealth in mind that provide them with opportunities to use their skills is being considered at the moment. Stealth will also be heavily utilized by halflings, but they're still figuring out how to make it easy for this race to sneak around bigger targets. Overall, stealth in Baldur's Gate 3 is not the same as the cover system in the books, and instead, it is based on a binary rule of whether or not an enemy can spot you, together with the light and dark system. Now, when it comes to a vampire spawn such as Astarion, there are some weaknesses that the player has to deal with. Running water will heavily damage Astarion. It can actually kill him in the first 15 seconds of the game by clicking the river Kiontar that is going past him, which is synonymous to getting dissolved in acid. He also cannot enter settlements without getting invited, so I assume that he either has to charm inhabitants or wait for them to invite him over to repel enemies. Inviting vampire spawns is definitely part of the race's lore. It would be cool to see other creative ways to invite him over, such as fulfilling some tasks to increase the roleplay experience. In the original Baldur's Gate games, the party can be wiped out due to dice rolls at lower levels. In Baldur's Gate 3, you will still have less room for error in the earlier levels, but D&D 5e rules can improve your chances on any roll. This pertains to systemic sources of advantage, such as playing yourself on higher ground to gain benefits over your enemies. Tutorials in earlier fights will also help in understanding the advantages you can put yourself in. The game will get you to level 2 as quickly as possible, so you will not feel too squishy. Up to now, the level cap hasn't been decided due to the large amount of content. This surprises me because I thought there's already a level cap in place before adding more content, but it seems to be the other way around. Plotting the content first is priority. This prevents them from unnecessarily stretching out the story for the sake of leveling up. Expect that in higher levels, encounters get harder. Exciting and significant experiences are also spaced out so leveling up becomes more meaningful. Nick says that you'll get to spend more time on every level with situations and combat tailored specifically to player expectations. In terms of long rest and short rest, these are not similar to Divinity's bedroll, which can be accessed immediately to solve problems. In Baldur's Gate 3, resources have more weight, especially when it comes to dangerous zones like the spider caves near the Underdark. You cannot simply teleport from these zones to restore your health. You have to rely on limited amounts of short rest. So think about it this way, short rest is like taking a breather in between battles to partially restore the party's HP using hit dice rules. Currently, the cap is at 2 between long rests. In the context of D&D 5e, this is actually appropriate because it forces players to be mindful of resource management while planning encounters ahead of time without needing too much short rests to begin with. Long rest, on the other hand, means going to sleep in a safe environment or camp to fully restore everyone's HP. There are also plans of putting leveling up and the decisions that go with it during long rest, together with ruminating on the events that recently happened to cohesively show how your characters grow in one area. When it comes to skill checks, it's not all black and white life and death situations. It's a mixed bag of significant and mundane events where failing often will result in the players having a good time. Nick teases that some checks are associated with hidden dungeons. Missing these means missing a significant chunk of content. In relation to this are the inspiration points you get by making creative moves that allow you to reroll failed skill checks. In Baldur's Gate 3, you can earn these points by being brave enough to make big choices that can lead to darker consequences, such as figuratively selling your soul. There isn't going to be a lot of opportunities per act, but the points can be accumulated. Now, in terms of reactions, the goal of Larian is to make sure that the player experiences attacks naturally. Immersion should still be there without pausing the action to have a sudden text pop up asking if a menacing attack should be used or not. It becomes jarring to be interrupted with text instead of seeing the action unfold seamlessly in front of you. Each attack should also remain visually distinct from one another. To make this work, players on their turn are allowed to choose the reactions they wish to trigger if they want to spend resources. One example is a wizard disabling his or her attack of opportunity in favor of using other spells. Elemental interactions and surfaces are also unique in the game. One example is the Myconids in the Underdark, which will have clouds that you won't see anywhere else. Now, when it comes to dying in Baldur's Gate 3, resurrection scrolls will be spread around. Additionally, to make death count more, you will have to go back and interact with a corpse in exchange for costly resource, which is something that is still being decided by Larian. I'm amazed with how much information and hype Baldur's Gate 3 is garnering. It's very nice to see a company push themselves every time by paying attention to so many details to make each game better than the ones that came before them. We've covered so much in this video, so let me know in the comment section below which update you're most happy with. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, remember to share, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications when new videos come out. Take care, and I'll see you again this week for more Baldur's Gate 3 lore. Baldur's Gate 3's lead system designer, Neek. What's up with Neek?